Good morning, and I'm so excited to be a part of the Avini team with all of you. And oh my goodness, what a great time we have. Avini, if you're new, Avini is really quite a novel situation here. First off, it's new, and yet it has a strong heritage. Just as an example, think about to have any kind of business, you need some type of product or service, you need people, and a business without people that is unimaginable. And so the best business is the business that provides service or products that solve problems. And the biggest problem we have, I would say, is health. Boy, if you don't have health, nothing else really matters that much. And we have products that are so good. I honestly believe that if everyone were using Avini, there would be no health crises. There might be some problems. We still might die, but so many problems would just not be there. And I love this idea of may you never know what you're preventing. The best way to use these products are not wait till you have a problem, but avoid it in the first place. And so we've got something just really excited, elegant solutions to complex and difficult problems. And we're seeing that happen over and over again where things happen. And what we have is not an experiment. The main thing that we have is Cell Defender, which is my all-time favorite product I've ever experienced. It's from personal use. But what's really amazing is that product has a 20-year track record. Millions of bottles have been sold over those 20 years. Thousands of people have helped throughout the whole country, the world, in fact. And there's just the evidence is there. It really does work. And as Rick says, a healthy, clean body fixes itself. And wow, if you could get your body clean on the inside. We've all got all of these amazing products. Rick himself has an amazing track record of doing billions of dollars in product development for all of these other companies. Our CEO, wow, Neil Roth, he's done billions of dollars in sales for everybody else in corporate America. And then we actually have field leaders that have done billions of dollars. And yet coming all together, we've already been through a few rodeos, and what we have is just, wow, we're just doing it again for ourselves. As an example, I've shared with people that I've used this for 7 years myself personally under 4 different labels. And so the purpose of Avini, why we have that, is originally Rick, his strength is product development, and he's really good at that. He really wanted to just stay doing that, but people kept dropping the ball, and so they started their own company. And I am just so thrilled where we have total control. We've got a company that in under one roof, we've got the inventor, the laboratory, the manufacturing, everything from raw material that comes in one side and comes out the door the other side is in our total control. Lots less moving parts. And wow, we've got something. And it's not an experiment. All of these products have been around before. And can you imagine this idea of being at the right place at the right time? We've all heard that. Here we are. And we've gone on our shakedown cruise for 3 years. We're ready to go. And just some thoughts. I was reading, this is something that John Maxwell puts out. And I was reading something that, there's just something about ideas that can make you think. This is a big one right here. And it kicks off about this thought right here. And maybe you've heard about this, maybe you haven't. But back in 1968, NASA commissioned a fascinating study. They hired Dr. George Land, a systems analyst, Dr. Beth Ehrman, an educator. And what they wanted to do was define and identify genius. And so this team conducted a longitudinal research with 1,600 American children using NASA's imaginative thinking test, how we think. Okay, this is the cool thing right here. Okay, they conducted this study with 1,600 American children. Beginning at 5 years old, the children were tested on creative thinking. At that time, 98% were classified as geniuses. Wow, that's interesting. Okay, so at that time, 98% classified as geniuses. 5 years later, at age 10, only 50% qualified, and by age 15, only 12%. As adults, only 2%. What happened? Well, 98% down to 2%. as we grow older and wiser or smarter? This is the thought right here. Okay, what happened? Land pointed to the educational system, an institution whose philosophy was reflected on a quote attributed to John D. Rockefeller. We don't need a nation full of thinkers. We need a nation full of workers. The schools shaped this philosophy. They taught conformity instead of creativity. Over time, we traded our natural genius for structured and safe thinking. That's an interesting thought. Years ago, in my 20s, I came across Earl Nightingale and his cassette tape, The Strangest Secret. I highly recommend that. I read that and listened to that over and over again. And in that, it talks about courage. We all want to have courage, but he said the opposite to courage you might think of as cowardice. He says the opposite to courage is conformity. And the problem is we're conforming to the wrong people. And so that's the whole thing is the educational system teaches us to conform. Now, if we were conforming with the right type of people, then that's a great thing. I think one of the most important things to be successful is just to decide what you want to do. And in that tape, The Strangest Secret, he talks about success and what is success. And that's where I heard a really wonderful definition. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And so if you're moving toward that, you're successful. It's not a destination, it's actually the progressive realization. And then, but going back with that is where are we headed? Conformity and work. The interesting thing is most people really don't have a lot of satisfaction in their work. They're dissatisfied. And so that's what I'd like to talk about today is just what do you want with your life? And here's some ideas that I think is really powerful is the greatest and the strangest and all those other things as far as secrets. Is it really a secret? Maybe, but ultimately, Earl Nightingale says we become what we think about. And we want to be thinking the right thing. Now, here's the cool thing is we can direct our lives by directing our thinking. And one of the things I think is really fascinating is we have MJ Durkin as part of our corporate team guiding us. And I think one of the most interesting things is the way he thinks. And to give you an idea, some of his thoughts that he talks about over and over again is repetition and reinforcement are the parents of skill. But that's one of the most critical factors, and it's a great secret, is reinforced repetition over time. It just changes things. When you're doing that repetition, a lot of that is the thinking process. And when you think something again, and again, it changes you. Those thoughts become more who you are, more permanent and deeper. They just come there. And so let me share one of my very favorite, perhaps my most favorite idea about MJ Durkin. When he was a young man deciding that he wanted to get into personal development and do what he's doing, he went to a pretty expensive class that he sacrificed for. And there were some really brilliant people, and a lot of it was just attending lectures. He came, but right at the very beginning, he said, "This is really good stuff. Do you mind if I bring my cassette recorder and I could just put that up there by the lectern? I would like to record that." And they all said, "Yeah, that's fine." And so what he did is he recorded all of these brilliant people, everything they said, and then he would listen to it again and again. And pretty soon it became him. I think one of the most wonderful ideas is some of my greatest thinking was originally done by someone else. But isn't that powerful where you can take someone else's idea and make it your own? Maybe even profit more from that idea than the other person by using that. And so MJ's genius, a lot of that came from other people. And that's one of the most wonderful ideas that we can, is we can take tremendous shortcuts. Experience is a great teacher, especially if it's someone else's experience. So you can pick up a book or a cassette tape, or, and I say cassette tape now, some people don't even know what that is, but recordings, and listen to them again and again while you're driving and anything else. You're at the gym or whatever, listening to someone else's words. And if you do that again, repetition and reinforcement, it becomes a part of you. And so I think that's one of the best ideas that there is out there. And so different ideas can direct your life in different ways. But I think wonderfully in the business of Avini to be successful, one of the things that really hit me was Brian Tracy. He said, okay, if you really want to be happy, you want to be good at what you're doing. I think that's just such a fundamental idea that all of us basically we have wants and needs. I think one of the big ones is autonomy, the ability to direct your own life, where you feel like you're in charge of where you're going. And in fact, if you really think about it, a lot of even your psychological health, just who you are. If you feel like you can direct your own life rather than someone else, be in the driver's seat of your own future rather than that going on. I think that's really fundamental. But I think right along that we were just talking about is just the thrill of being really good at what you do. And so Brian Tracy says that whatever you decide to do it well, and just as a scale, he says decide to be in the top 10% of the field that you're working in. You're going to be a lot more happy than just average. And so think about this. I've heard it said that average doesn't pay well. Be exceptional. And simply anybody could be exceptional. It's just doing the stuff again and again. And what we persist in doing, we get better at it. And it's so powerful. So many people, they never decide what they want to do. They're conforming with the wrong people. And so one of the things I love about being an Avini is it's an opportunity to conform with the right kind of people. One of my good friends who I've known for a long time and watched him is Rick Scharf. He's super successful. His whole life is high achievement. And one of the big things is association. And so some years ago, I remember he left a corporate world and decided he wanted to become a realtor. And so he picked different companies. He wanted to be in the best one. He picked Keller Williams and he went to the biggest agency around here. And then the first thing he did is he said, who's the top salesperson? Who's the best? And he introduced himself and he says, I want you to teach me. And so he found the best guy as a mentor. What did he say? I'll tell you why some of the fundamental things was something that John Maxwell does, the rule of five. And so what this guy told Rick to do was every day make five new contacts. Every day make at least five follow-ups. Every day send out five thank you cards. Just these five things, do that over and over again. If you're in any order of or type of business that involves people, that would work. Something like that would work really well in Avini, as an example. How many people are actually seeing five new people? That would be a lot of work. You'd really have to push yourself. And the wonderful thing is that if you kept doing that, it would maybe get harder in a really good way because you'd have so many people that you needed to follow up on. You'd keep yourself really busy. And I think that's one of the big things is I want to keep seeing new people so that you've got lots of people to say. If you look on your list and you've got only five people, I say, well, if I call all of them today, I'll be out of business. What am I going to do tomorrow? And think in your mind, just get in the attitude that this is an infinite resource for all intents and purposes. There's millions of people out there, and every day you can connect with people in various ways. Right at first, they think, oh, this is hard if you've never done it before. But if you get good at it, again, it gets better and better. And just hang around. If you want to go duck hunting, you go where the ducks are. And so that's an important thing. Some other things I wanted to talk about is one of the things I've heard about, and this goes back into repetition and reinforcement, is ever since I got into sales, and I've been straight commission working out of my home since 1978. And some of that's been really good and some not so much. You learn on the straight commission thing. So, but the thing I think is just so powerful, it served me so well, was right at the beginning was people do business with people they know and trust. And so one of the most important ideas there is really be interested in people, love them. I think just on the most basic of all things. In fact, one of the other things I think is just read. And so here's something along that line. When I get a book and make it my own, I mark it up. But at the front of some of my books, I actually write in things to just review that. And I'll just read this directly. Every good thing flows from the strength of relationships. Think about every good thing flows from the strength of relationships. Think about all the things, any way you might define success. Probably other people are involved. Certainly, if you think of happiness, pursuing something. As an example, I'm just real excited. So we're going on the Hiawatha Trail today. I think I could probably have fun if I just did it myself, which I've never done. It's beautiful. It's about almost 30 miles out and back. It's an old railway system that's been turned into a bicycle trail. It has trestle bridges that are over 200 feet high. One of the tunnels you go through is almost 2 miles long. That's a little tedious, dark and cold. But boy, you stop at one of those trestle bridges and look down, and you see these really tall trees, but they're way down below. It's just amazing. We're going with my son and his family. They've got 5 kids. I've got another grandson that's coming too. And we're just going to have a lot of fun, much more fun than I could possibly ever have by myself on that. And that's what I love about life in general is everything that you do, it's more fun if you're with people that you love. Let me continue along some other thoughts right here. To know people and love people, that's a lot of what things are about. But here's a really thought right here. To be loved but not known is comforting, but very superficial. To be known and not loved, that's our greatest fear. That's rejection. But to be truly known and fully loved, that's almost, it is. It's like being loved as God would love us. And that's what we need more than anything. And this is what we should aspire to do, is just to have an unconditional love for everyone. And I look at Avini, it's all about relationships. So often in sales, definitely this business, where it's not just selling something and off you go. It's building long-term relationships of many years. And it's basically carefully looking for people that you would love to have as a friend anyway. And that's pretty much the whole business right there is just learning to love people where they can really feel that it's genuine. And then what happens naturally out of that is, my goodness, when we find something that we believe in, something that we've discovered that's wonderful, we want to share it with other people. And so if you go on the Hiawatha Trail and it was wonderful, you're going to tell your friends about it. And what's really fun is when they come back and say, we went on that, it was a wonderful experience. Or better yet, you go there with them and show that to them. And so every day we have an opportunity to share a discovery that could change their whole life that's vital in the world we live in, and nobody knows about it. And so if we express that with love, then just amazing things start happening. That's pretty much the whole business is just that. It is becoming the sort of human being that you ought to be anyway. And one of the best things about this is as we can get better if we work on it and we can actually change our hearts and minds and change the hearts and minds of other people. It's just so wonderful. And that fits into something that I heard long ago too, and you have too, but it's worth saying again and again, is Zig Ziglar says, and this is something that I think was really cool, is John Maxwell in his journey. He wanted to be just a really great minister and later on a big influencer in all areas, business, everything. But he really liked being a guru, helping other people. And he was introduced to Zig Ziglar. It changed his whole life. And it'll change yours too if you have this attitude that if you help enough other people get what they want, you'll automatically get anything that you want. And Zig goes on though. He says, no, this has got to be real. If it's just a sales tactic, it becomes real crass, shallow. It's got to be real. I think of all the things we don't like as hypocrite or phony. And this is not a fake it sort of thing. And people can feel that. And so much of communication is nonverbal. Even when we're on the phone, if you're smiling, or if you have the right attitude, it comes through. Now here's some other ideas too. When you first start doing something, I remember all of this stuff I'm talking about, I had to learn. I was very socially inept when I was younger. I had no communication skill. And as I got older, got into high school, it wasn't very good at that sort of thing. But the thing, especially if it was girls, And I remember just thinking, looking at maybe one of a guy just talking to a girl, just very comfortable. And how do they do that? Just and that goes on to probably one of the most scary and most wonderful things that you can learn to do is communicating actually in groups. And it's been said that the public speaking could actually be more scary than death. It is one of the big fears. And I had a chance to do a little bit of work with Bill Gove, who long gone. But when he was alive, I discovered that a lot of the great people, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy, Les Brown, a lot of people came to him and learned speaking skills from him. He was the master. But one of the things I thought was really cool was the whole idea is learn to tell stories. The best speakers are people that just tell stories. And he went on with this idea, and it stuck in my mind that this idea where he said, and maybe you have had this experience too. Maybe you're out at a restaurant and at the dining table next to you, there's a group, and you hear somebody tell the most entertaining story, and everybody around the tables is enwrapped. It's a really good story. And we've all had experiences like that where we've had an experience and we've shared it with other people. And and you think, okay, stories. And he thought, okay, if somehow, some way you could take that guy, he's just very comfortable because he's around his friends. If somehow you could magically transport him up on the stage with that same demeanor, same attitude, the same connecting, telling a story to his friend, he would be a master speaker. He would be so good. And just like the friends at the table were unwrapped because it was a good story, he would mesmerize the audience and they'd say, what a great speech. And he says, that's the idea. If you really want to be good, is you've got to mentally let go of that fear and just somehow imagine that audience or that prospect on the other end is your friend. And maybe you're just sitting in the living room, just casually visiting. Be very comfortable, but also be very good in the telling the story. And if you've got a really good story, you lived it and you could rehearse it. And as you have a good story, you'll tell it again, and it gets better as you tell it. You use the right words and everything to really pull people in. And you look at what this is all about. When you do calls, and a lot of people, they might have objections, they might be thinking different things, but let me tell you my story, or let me tell you this story of a friend of mine, and you tell that story really well. A lot of objections, a lot of things just they just melt away, and they think, I think I'd like to try that. And so essentially, I think one of the just master keys of this is learning to just not be self-conscious. And a lot of that is just desensitizing yourself by doing it again and again. Because right at first, it might be scary. And especially, okay, you should start with the people. People do business with people they know and trust. We'll talk to those people. However, if you call a good friend who knows you well and your voice is different, you're nervous, you're thinking, oh, this is a good story. I love this. I love this. Oh, why does it have to be network marketing? Because I know I talked to him about something before, and all of a sudden that emotional tension is in there. Your voice is a little different. That communicates out there, and then they say, "What's this all about?" And then all of a sudden you lose it completely, and you just got to think, okay, get your mind prepped that this really is wonderful. Everything about this business, everything, including the network marketing, which done right, it's the most pure, equitable, wonderful way you could ever do business. The sad thing is most people, anything they know about it, they've learned from people that do it wrong. But if done what, done right, done, it's the way you want to live your life. And so you just got to truly believe, get comfortable with it, but then practice and practice. I love this idea that if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly until you learn to do it well. But if you do it and do it, you do get better. And so the thing I love about this business is all of these skills are invaluable to just have a good life anyway, learning to love people, really care. And you want to be like that anyway. You want to treat people. The golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's all about this business. If you help enough other people get what they want, not as a sales tactic, but genuinely, you don't care about the outcome. You just want to help. And I've seen that happen over and over again with this business. And when that happens and you do it a lot, then all of a sudden you're in this environment where we are in a growth industry. A lot of us that are involved in Avini, we've already known there's something going on. Essentially, I look at it as the medical industrial complex that is essentially it really is a business. It's a big business. The purpose of a business is to make a profit. Hopefully, the purpose of a business is to make a profit by doing good. But sometimes that gets overlooked, and it's just let's make a business. And to the point where it's almost if you follow me, you're never going to get better because all of this stuff we have is just designed to manage your symptoms. And so you're going to take this stuff the rest of your life. That's just the way it is. What I love is something that actually helps your body get better. It supports it. It does not have side effect. It has side benefits. And so it's really amazing because all of these things that we've felt about, it's actually hitting national consciousness where everybody's thinking something's wrong. If we're the sickest nation in the world and we're spending all this money on healthcare, maybe it's not well spent. Maybe this isn't the best way to go. And we have a better way. When I first discovered Cell Defender all those years ago, there was no business opportunity. I shared it anyway. I found a better way for myself, and I thought maybe some other people, it'd be a better way for them too. And so here we are. I want to finish with just a couple of thoughts about this. One of the things I love Marcy talking about, yeah, we've got a compensation plan and it's a good one. It's the best I've ever seen. But what it really should be and how we need to be thinking is we have a conversation plan. And so getting back into this idea about doing it right and really caring about people. I remember years ago, and this is actually another business, but same idea. And so my friend who I'd known a long time, he was in this business. Now, most people that don't make it in the business, there's a reason. They're secret agents. Nobody knows they're in the business. They're not talking to anybody. But I'm really concerned if somebody's actually going out there and talking to lots of people. And this was my friend Norm. And so he's seen all these people and he called me up and he says, I've got an appointment to go see a family. And they're really good. They're health nuts and they can afford it. And I don't want to blow it. So will you come with me? You take over. And we went out together and drove up, went into the house, and everything he said was true. The nicest, most wonderful people. I didn't know them. And so basically, mostly what I did for quite a while was just getting to know them. And yeah, they bought everything. It was wonderful. It was a great experience. And as we got out in the car, he says, oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. I just go in and start talking and trying to sell him something. And it was a breakthrough for him is to love people. And that was something I learned when I first got into light bulbs. I'd come in and see somebody and say, hi, I'm Dave Johnson. I'm with Northwestern Industrial Lamp Company. Can I talk to the person that gets to worry about that? And yeah, do you need anything? And but I didn't really get to know them. Later on, as I built rapport and asked them about themselves, and everybody's very favorite subject is themselves. And why not? It's really interesting to get to know people. And when you do that, again, people do business with people they know and trust. And that's what's really fun is when you get in this, you're going to meet people that already have that people equity. They have a lot of people that like them and know them and trust them. And when they get excited about this, all of a sudden you have an influence multiplier because you've got an influential person in your business. And but in order to do that, you've got to be pretty good at that too. That just being able to influence other people, it makes everything in your life better, certainly in business. Let me share a couple of thoughts here with you. This is a really good thing here, and this I actually took from a book about prospecting by Jeb Blount. But he talks about something that we all have a problem with. And so I'm going to throw this out here. Okay, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. It's a better health plan than trying to eat 30 apples on the last day of the month. I think he got that from Jim Rohn. He says, you can't do all your prospecting for the month in one day. It's impossible and it will never get done. Yet, salespeople put prospecting off, always with a promise that I'll get around to it tomorrow or later this week or Monday or whatever the prevailing excuse of the day is. They delude themselves into thinking that they can prospect once or twice a week and that'll be okay. But I know the real truth, and so do you. It never works out like that. Procrastination is an ugly disease that plagues the human race. No one is immune. You've got it, and I've got it. In fact, I have a PhD in procrastination, a bona fide expert. One year, I bought a book called How to Stop Procrastinating, and that was my New Year's resolution. That book sat unread on my bedside table for 3 years until I finally sold it at a garage sale. Yeah. And this is Jeb Blunt, who writes books on prospecting. He says, every major failure in my life has been a direct result of a collapse in my self-discipline to do little things every day. Frankly, that is all failure really is, the cumulative impact of making poor decisions, and it slips the self-discipline and things put off until it's too late. But there is no reward for procrastination. The failure to do the little things every day will cripple your efforts to achieve your goals. Lack of discipline will slowly but surely tug at your success and will eventually steal it away. To be a successful prospector, you must develop the self-discipline to do a little bit of prospecting each day. You can't wait until the end of the year or even the end of the month to prospect. You have to prospect every day. Procrastination is easy, but the cost is great. Many salespeople don't understand the price they have to pay until they wake up one day and realize that they are facing a big pile of shoulda dones, regret and failure. As the saying goes, procrastination is the grave where opportunity is buried. Again, the book I can highly recommend, Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount. But oh my goodness, yeah, decide you want to be good. Be in the top 10% of Avini. And right now, it's not very big. As it gets bigger, this will surely become a $1 billion company. Where will you be in that? How big of a piece of that will you want as it continues to grow? Or you could procrastinate and say, gee, I could have, I should have. Of all the words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these that might have been. No, I'm glad I did. I'm glad I'm a big part of that. Avini's big because I'm big with it. Here's a chance to grow with that. So here we go. Just do it. Decide to be big and read every day, become really good, love people. That's what it's all about. That's what we ought to do anyway. I love you. I'm glad you're part of our team and let's go do this.